Greetings, free thinkers. Welcome to the Hoggcast. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing fine. I certainly am. Okay, what do we have for you on today's episode? We have for you two clips to watch which show the absurdity of the West's leftists and the conundrum they find themselves in regards to supporting Palestine. Now, you know that the left, generally speaking, are NPCs, non-player characters. Now, with the Israeli and Palestine conflict, you know that one being Muslim, the other being Jew, which on the greasy totem pole of left-wing intersectionality are both somewhere at the top. So this creates quite a conundrum for them, and it results in bizarre, utterly bizarre pieces of footage that I'm sure you've already seen numerous times. Different pieces of footage, that is. We've got some new ones for you to watch. Got two clips for you to watch. One from Europe, one from Britain, in which the left and the left-wing ideology clashes with the reality of the people they want to white saviour for. They want to be white saviours for this group, that group, and so on and so on, as you know. Now, what you can see here, we'll get into the clip in a second, is this is the Europe clip. This is a man belonging to the alphabet community. He is waving a rainbow flag with the word Verd on, or Verdi. Now, this means peace. I think it's Dutch or Flemish or one of those languages for peace, but I do know it means peace. And the rainbow flag is the flag of the LGBTQ community. You've probably seen it yourself where they come out and say LGBTQ for Palestine, not knowing that the people here beside them, the Palestinians, they punish people who are of alphabet community by tying their hands and legs together, tying them up and throwing them off the top of a building. That's the punishment for it. You read the Holy Book, although it doesn't explicitly state that in the Holy Book, it does state that they will be punished. But this just seems to be the de facto punishment that they go for in the Middle East and the Muslim world. But anyway, look, let's get into this clip and the one after that. But if you haven't yet, please like this video if you found it interesting or informative. We are on YouTube and BitChute, so if you could subscribe on these platforms, that would really help us out. But either way, share this video around. There's social media links below. That will really help this small channel combat the crippling shadow banning we have been subjected to. We don't get advertised. We don't get suggested like we used to. So if you value independent conservative commentary, if you could do those things, that would really help me out. Okay, let's go.
Kijk, met welke man? Ik ben bang voor je. Ik kom uit Palestina, wij zijn bang voor iedereen. Christian, moslim, homo, we gaan helemaal ver. Jij meelopen. Doe mee. Top. Draai wat je zo weer. Oké, top. Ik ben bang voor je.
So, I mean, I don't speak the Dutch language or the Flemish language, but from translations I've seen online, they're telling him, because there's two opposing protests. There's one pro-Israel and there's one that's pro-Palestine. This guy here, being the leftist that he is, he's decided to turn up. He saw an route to be the typical white saviour. So he's gone over to the pro-Palestine rally, and from the translations I've seen online, they've told him to go over there. Go over there to the, which is the pro-Israel protest, because there's a pro-Israel protest and there's a pro-Palestine counter-protest, which is what he has turned up to with his LGBTQ rainbow flag, utterly subjected to his whole life, because this guy's obviously middle-aged, he's getting on. His whole life he's been subjected to the propaganda, and he knows nothing about the people he is trying to white knight for, trying to be the saviour for. He knows nothing about the people. He just knows what he's been taught to believe by mainstream media. He's never read their holy book. I have. If he did, he probably wouldn't be there, but that's beside the point. So let's watch again.
Nee met de demonstratie.
Kijk, met welke man? Ik ben bang voor je. Ik kom uit Palestina, wij zijn Palestina, iedereen. Christian, moslim, homo, iedereen. We gaan heen of daar, wil je meelopen?
Doe mee.
Kom. Oké, stop. Ik ben bang voor je.
And before we move on to the next clip, I saw something like this myself in my town where I live about 4 or 5 years ago, probably a little bit longer. There was when you get these regional flare-ups between Israel and Palestine and the Palestinians and the people in the West Bank and so on, it triggers these protests in many countries, and there was even one in my town. And I remember that I remember walking through town and I saw a Jewish man fleeing for his life, and he was being chased by Palestinians, or I should say a coalition of, because in my town you have Muslims from, for example, they're descended from Pakistan, Iran, Iraq, Turkey, Oman, Lebanon, Syria. So there's all of these different people united under their religious banner. They share that. That's more important to them than their nationality, right? Their religion, which they share, is more important. So you had mainly youths who were actually born here in Britain, so technically you could call them British, and they were chasing this Jewish man, a middle-aged Jewish man. The police didn't bother arresting any of them. They didn't even try. All they did is ushered the fleeing Jewish man into a police car, and the police car sped off with him, not to arrest him, but to get him away from the trouble. So they didn't bother trying to arrest anyone. And the reason why I'm telling you this story is because trailing the baying mob of young pro-Palestine Muslim youths and young men were two white, my community, working class, probably middle class to be honest, by the look of them, college students. They were young college students, and they had pro-Palestine flags and banners, but they were walking with their head down. They weren't walking with their head up. This is what I mean. They had been conditioned by mainstream media to think Palestine is always good, Israel is always bad. So they turn up to this pro-Palestine movement and this protest thinking it's going to be a love fest, which is what, of course, this guy here thought. And instead, they were with their head down, bowed down, trailing after a baying mob of young men who were chasing a Muslim man. That's the side they were on. Sorry, chasing a Jewish man. That's the side that they were on. That's the side that they chose. And it keeps happening. Because the left, it's all fun and games until you get two of the quote-unquote protected groups who have pride of place at the top of the greasy totem pole of woke intersectionality. But when those two groups start fighting amongst themselves, the heads of the white leftists explode because they can't compute the situation. They've never been programmed to understand which side to take, because they were under the impression it's everyone against the white man. That's what they've been taught to believe. That's what they want. And I'm talking about leftists here, Western leftists. That's what they want. So when there's dissension in the ranks, they don't know how to react to it. They just don't know how to react. That's why you always see them. They'll go completely quiet in these situations. There's loads of clips online. I'm sure you've seen them. They just go quiet because they don't know. They haven't been programmed how to respond. They're NPCs. They don't know what to do. So they just stay completely quiet. And they follow any order given to them by the people present. They don't think for themselves. It's just, if they said walk off that bridge, he'd do it. Anyway, look, let's move on to the next clip. So, from Europe to Britain, and like everywhere else, there is pro-Palestine rallies and some pro-Israel rallies going on. This is a pro-Palestine rally. This is in London, and a Muslim woman is approached. She's a police officer by another Muslim woman. So you'd think that the police officer would remain neutral. That's what they're supposed to do. But this is a chin wag among old friends. Take a look for yourself.
Free Palestine!
That's a police officer. That's a London police officer. Free Palestine! Now look, I've got no skin in that game. Whether Palestine's free or not it's not my game, right? It's not my concern. But what is my concern is police officers in my country taking overtly political stances, red hot political stances. You're not allowed to be a police officer in Britain if you supported small grassroots conservative movements that get labelled falsely by the mainstream media as, quote, far right. You're not allowed to support them. You're not allowed to support them. Like UKIP and everything from UKIP down. You're not allowed to. Yet you have London police officers, and London is a hot spot for people who want to foment attacks on the state of Britain itself, let alone Israel and the like. But for a serving police officer to say free Israel, free Palestine, that should be grounds for firing her, but they won't. Of course they won't. Remember what I told you, my own experience? I mentioned it at the end of the last clip if you didn't skip through it. How the Jewish man was chased down the streets. The police did nothing to arrest the people chasing him. They just drove the Jewish man away. Because that's easier than arresting the group that were attacking him. Let's watch again.
Free Palestine!
So this is the people that she has aligned themselves with. Look, you've got Anonymous there. You've got all of the usual leftist groups, BLM, Antifa. They were all down there in London. That's who she's now sided with, right? Do you want people like that? Why is it okay for police officers and military to go out of their way to oust anyone remotely conservative from their ranks, but this is allowed? They're allowed to support this. This is a recipe for disaster. I hope people learn. So they're the chanting Allah Akbar now. That's who you're siding with. That's who you're siding with. But as again, I have no skin in the Israel-Palestine game. Whether they support either side doesn't bother me. It's not my fight. What concerns me is police officers in my country taking overtly political stances when police officers who, for example, might look like me, if you know what I mean, you're not even allowed to support grassroots conservative movements because they just get labelled as far right by The Guardian. So essentially, The Guardian and the BBC can dictate terms to our police, even our military. What type of society is that? Who wants to be a part of that? Anyway, look, I'll leave it there. Let me know what you guys think of this video and subjects we covered in the comment section below. We are on YouTube and BitChute if you are on any of those platforms. subscribe to the channel if you did find it interesting. Either way, share this video around. That is very important. We are shadow banned and reduced, as Wojcicki likes to call it. We don't get promoted or shared or advertised like we used to. Like many conservative commentators, we have been shadow banned. So if you could share this video around social media and that lot, only takes not much time at all, and it would really help me out, and I would really appreciate it. So thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.